Hi folks, welcome back to the Guitar Farm, and today we are checking out this rather sleek and mean looking Squier Contemporary Series Active Jazzmaster Humbucker from 2021. And this is in the wonderful but now discontinued graphite finish. So I recently shot a video on a Squier Deluxe Series Hot Rails Strat, and this Contemporary Series is kind of the next cab off the rank, chronologically, in terms of the performance Squiers at least. And I have to say, this one is really rather impressive. So this graphite finish really is super sleek. It reminds me of something that you get on a performance car, like a sort of M Sport BMW or an AMG Mercedes or something along those lines. It really is wonderful. It's kind of like a petrol-y grey, if that makes sense. Kind of colour. You've also got your gunmetal grey hardware, but we'll touch on that in a moment, but it really sets it off a treat. In terms of this particular example, there is one rather discerning feature about it that I'll cover later on in the video. The eagle-eyed may have spotted it already. So as performance Squiers go, this one is a cracker and has the looks to match with the paint job. Your two active SQR ceramic humbuckers. These are kind of like Squier's versions of an AMG, and they pull them off really well. Nice sounding pickup. Plenty of heat and source on tap with these ones. So as alluded to, you've got your gunmetal grey hardware, or as Goto would call it, Cosmo Black. It's gunmetal grey to most of us, and it really sets the guitar off a treat with a graphite metallic finish. So we have our single volume, single tone setup, master volume, master tone, and these just work as normal on whatever pickup selection or combination of pickups we have selected. I have the typical three-way switching, which works in exactly the same way as a conventional Les Paul switching. So that is to say, bridge, neck and bridge, parallel, and neck. We have our 3-ply black, white, black scratch plate, and as these are active pickups, we have our compartment for the single PP3 9-volt battery in the back. In on the back of the guitar, the graphite finish looks absolutely stunning. Even the neck plate is done up in the gunmetal grey. So I've just moved the lighting source in here very subtly, just to show the kind of different hues the finish can pick up when the light hits it at different angles. The wonderful finish. Nice metallic sparkle to it as well. So the body on this one is a poplar body, which is a step up from the NATO that's usually being used, the NATO wood. Even on the classic vibes, they only get NATO for the most part. This is poplar. Now, poplar is popular, or was popular even with Fender in the 1980s. Some of the Strat Pluses were even made of poplar, and some of the Fender gurus at Fender at the time even said that poplar was arguably a better tone with an alder. The problem with poplar is it's rather ugly in terms of its grain. So a lot of the sort of vintagey, sunbursty, transparent finishes that Fender do are not suited to poplar, because you get sort of knotting in it and what have you. Not like pine, but it's not the most attractive wood. But on solid finishes like this, it's a great tone wood and makes no odds because it's an opaque finish. Now here is where things get really tasty. So the spec on this guitar is a 22 fret Indian Laurel fingerboard. Now I don't know if you can see this, but I've seen a lot of guitars with Indian Laurel since it became popular for sort of budget brands, and none of them look like this. As you can see, I've got light hitting this and it still looks absolutely dark, like a really dark chocolate brown. Now, if that's Indian Laurel, I will be damned. That, to me, looks like rosewood. Again, let's take a really close look up the fretboard. I've got light really pinging off this now. And it still looks super dark. Regardless, I've never seen an example of this model or series with a fretboard this dark before. Whatever wood it is. My opinion, it looks very much like rosewood, even in terms of the sort of open grain nature of the surface. But this one having a dark fretboard really matches the rest of the guitar. So the next special little quirk on this one is all the frets have been machine polished, way shinier than what Squier would give you them, and also the fret ends have all been beautifully dressed and rounded over. Not quite ball end fret, but man does it feel so much better than stock. I will put a comparison photo up now. For you to see the difference. It's also had a little bit of shaping on the nut, so that's not adjusting the nut slots, it's just making the nut look a little bit more attractive. It's also had the nut slots just smoothed out with some very, very high grit, so fine grit sandpaper. Just makes it super smooth on the tuning side. And we've got a lovely graphite matching headstock. As you can see here, all the tuners are also done up in sort of gunmetal grey, gunmetal black. Nicely grained maple neck with a satin finish to it. Super speedy to play. The neck profile is almost exactly what I found it to be on the American Pro 1 series Strats. So like a slightly deep C. Now this neck profile fills the hand wonderfully, but isn't too thick. One of my personal favourites. There is a tiny blemish just there, right at the dusty end. It's very shallow. 'Tis but a scratch. I think, was that at Romeo and Juliet? My knowledge of those sorts of things is really poor. Hopefully my knowledge of guitars is better. But yeah, it's basically negligible. In terms of the back, it's in a lovely condition. There's some light play with it. As you can see, you can't really see it under hard light at all. You can see the light bouncing off this. Pretty much sort of 90% of the time invisible play around the back. Let's go up even closer to see what I mean there. Again, you can see the light bouncing off it. Can't really see anything. So I've got the guitar just resting on the case there. You can see a couple of small, very small surface level blemishes towards the top horn there. Clean there towards the middle portion. I'm just raising the guitar up a little bit there so you can see the one bona fide ding on this guitar, which is chipped through the colour coat. It's very small, smaller than a pea. As you can see, there's no neck pocket lacquer cracks. Moving around the side, you can see the light bouncing off it there. Very clean, very clean. Now we move on to the important bit, the front, which is basically immaculate, save for one tiny little nick in the clear there. I know it looks like it's gone through the colour, but it hasn't. That's just because the light's bashing off it. All very, very clean. There is a slight area of picking wear, or polishing wear in this area. You'll never pick it up on the camera because it's invisible basically under most lights. Only when you've got the guitar at the right angle do you see it. It's very light. And equally importantly, as I stressed earlier, this one's had a full machine fret polish. The frets are immaculate, really there's next to no wear. Board is oiled, super dark. So yeah folks, that completes our look at the Squier Contemporary Series Active Jazzmaster in graphite. This one's from 2021 and is an absolutely stunning machine. It's for sale on eBay and Reverb. If you've got any questions, please do get in touch and I'll answer them. Take care now, bye bye.